is now 7:03 and I am about to begin the webinar.
Great, good evening. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission on December 18th. Can we begin with a roll call attendance?
Chair Brown.
Present.
Vice Chair Freeman. Present. Commissioner Cribbs.
Here.
Commissioner Dang.
Here.
Commissioner Greenfield. Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Way.
Here.
Chair, that is 6 present.
Thank you and welcome to our new Commissioner Dang. We'll begin with public comment. This is for members of the public wishing to address the commission on matters within the jurisdiction of the city, but not on this agenda. So if you do have a comment on one of the agenda items, please hold your comments and raise your hand via Zoom or fill out a comment card if you're here in person on those items, but this is for non-agenda items. Do we have any non-agenda public comment?
Chair, I'm seeing no hands raised online or in person.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on, any agenda changes, additions, or deletions from the commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the October 22nd meeting. Were there any comments or changes from commissioners?
Yes, I just have two. One on page 5, line 5, the word lost, I think is not the correct word and probably needs another word. I don't know what to suggest. So page 5, line 5.
Okay.
And then on page 10, line 31, I would suggest that we delete the sentence after decades of study, just because it doesn't add anything.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And then there was a word missing, I think, on the first page. I don't know if that was not audible or if, I think it was, Shawnee, one of your comments, if you had anything to add to that. If not, okay, with those changes, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from October 22nd?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Great, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Cribbs.
Is that me? Oh, yes.
Commissioner Dang.
Abstain.
Yes.
Abstain. You just say abstain.
So I'll have you abstain from the vote just because you weren't at that meeting.
Okay. Abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Greenfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yes.
Commissioner Way.
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman.
Yes.
And Chair Brown.
Yes.
Chair, that is a 6-0 vote with 1 abstain.
Great, thank you so much. Moving on to the department report.
Great. Thank you very much. Steve Castillo, Assistant Director for Community Services. Sarah, why don't we, you have the slides, Javon?
All right, I can start. Sarah Robustelli, Community Services. Believe it or not, we haven't spoken since October, since the November meeting was canceled. So on the next slide here, you'll see Jacko Jaunt. And that was a great event, happened Friday, October 25th at Lytton Plaza. There were 40 pumpkins. And our youth were very involved, youth council. A lot of the commissioners also showed up, and we wanted to highlight a lot of the energy that was brought over to that event. Over 300 community members attended and voted for their favorite pumpkins, whereas previously we've only had 200 votes. So definitely an uptick, and multiple families provided great feedback and interesting ideas for next year. So Councilmember Vinker and Commissioner Way, thank you for attending. And then moving on to the Veterans Day event that was held November 11th. This was a partnership with Stanford University as well as the city. And this was a recognition event for all of those who served with the armed forces. And it was held downtown at MacArthur Park this year. Next slide. Our kicking off kind of the holiday season was the tree lighting at Lytton Plaza, happened Friday, December 6th. Very well attended and great entertainment and bringing a lot of liveliness to downtown. And next slide's Steve Castile.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So following the last Friday, so on Saturday, December 14th at approximately 10:30 or so, the Baylands Rangers and Foothills Rangers basically responded to a levee that overtopped along San Francisco Creek over at Baylands. It went over the Adobe Creek and the Duck Pond trails. The water levels there were pretty much unprecedented. The park rangers let us know that they had never seen water levels so high. This is in combination due to the king tides, which were about 9.4 in elevation, in combination with a storm front that kind of weighed in on that. Despite our best efforts basically to sandbag the levee area, which leads from one of the roads over to the interpretive center, the water inundated the entire parkland areas over there at the Baylands. So over the course of 30 minutes, the water flooded the roadway from the Duck Pond entrance all the way to the sales station. And it did strand a few visitors along the areas. I'd just like to thank our Palo Alto open space, staff and animal control officers and police officers who worked together actually in collaboration to safely evacuate the visitors from the Baylands. Once the tides receded, our open space staff and public works staff evaluated the damages which did happen to the levee and made plans for repairs ahead of the next tidal event. That was basically repairs that were done on the trail. Facility checks were also conducted on affected buildings and trails and the roadways. And by sundown, all the necessary repairs were completed and the park was reopened the following day. Sorry there, I just lost my thing. Next slide.
Wow.
Also, last Friday, we had a group of 12 Salesforce volunteers over at the Fred Irely Towerwell Park on Volunteer Day. It was a really nice collaboration that we had between park staff and the volunteers. They had planted over 150 native plants into that project. They did a really nice job. I can't say enough about that. So you can see kind of on the right-hand slide here, that's the way it looked right after they finished. That was about 3 hours of work that they had put in for that. And then there's still a little bit more work to be done. So they're going to come back in early January to finish up the mulching on the project. Next slide. Mitchell Dog renovation and expansion project, as you can see in the left-hand side of the photo. We basically graded out a lot of the different areas over there. We planted in 13 native trees over the dog park. You can see like a little quarter circle there, or a half circle of that's decomposed granite. A lot of that was added back in and recompacted for the surfacing. Fencing has started to delineate the area of the dog park. And we basically just have a few site amenities and turf work remaining. And estimation is to be completed in January of 2025. Next slide. On the left here, we've got our Bulwer Park project. The artwork that you see there on the left-hand side was installed today. Looks really nice. Staff had, basically worked with the contractors out there and got it all in. Basically, and construction is slated to be completed in the spring of 2025. And on the right-hand side there, we have Cubberley Restroom. Essentially, that's actually slated for delivery tomorrow, December 19th, to be put in, and then it's going to be completed later in the springtime, basically, or in a few more months, about another month or so, when the weather turns better. And that's going to be about 4 restrooms on that one. Next slide. And just to give you guys a few updates on staffing, park maintenance person, we now have an opening on that one. We had a staff member that vacated that one and took a position with our irrigation staff. We also have an opening on our inspector of field services, which will be as currently open. And then, hard to say this one, but we have a recreation coordinator position that is going to be opening up. That would be Javad's position, who's to my right. And I'd just like to make an announcement that this will be Javad's last meeting with the commission. We want to thank Javad for his support over the last 7 years here with the city of Palo Alto and 2 years serving here with the commission. And just want to, basically thank him for all of his dedicated service and wish him the best in his future endeavors. So thank you, Javad.
Thank you very much. It's been a privilege and an honor to work for the city of Palo Alto, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity and the support and all the development I've had here. Thank you.
Definitely going to be missed. And then just continuing on another topic, we're going to be still working on the draft term sheet for the long-term partnership with the First Tee program. And then golf course mitigation, we're continuing to move forward on that one, working with the different agencies to get that going again. And then also just an update on the sluice gate. We've reached out to the different environmental or departmental agencies to get the permitting going on that one. And so that is in progress as well. So as soon as we establish that one, then we can get a contract and do a regular work permit to get the gates to be cleaned and then opened again. And that's the end of our report.
Thank you. Busy couple months. Questions from the commission? Commissioner Cribb? Okay. Oh, sorry. No. Commissioner Greenfield?
Thank you. Is there an update on the turf replacement schedule at Mayfield, or what's the status? And as the stakeholders been reached out to?
Go ahead, Sarah.
We are currently drafting the staff report, and that is slated for February approval to City Council. We're currently with purchasing going through a co-op. And once that's completed, that's when we'll go to council for approval. So we're still looking at spring, early spring.
So the target date for this is early spring, and is there any consideration of pushing that to June?
We've taken a look at the evaluation of that one. At this time, we don't feel that it is in the best interest to delay the project, as the field right now is ending its useful lifespan. And we're concerned that if we try to extend that, we may not make our dates, but we're still in discussions with that.
You're still in discussions with
trying to with determining it, but right now our plan is to start in March. Yes.
And in terms of what the ongoing discussion is this with stakeholders? Is this
correct?
Internally with staff?
Yeah. Thank you for clearing that, Commissioner.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for just follow up on Commissioner Greensfield's question. You mentioned at the last meeting that the RFP went out for the soccer field, and that you were gathering data from other cities, and that was to look at also calculating the price on the and evaluating synthetic versus natural fill. So what is any update on that?
Yeah, so right now we're going to go out We've gone out for RFP basically, and we're going to be working with a consultant that's going to assist us with that because in looking at all of the components that go into a study this extensive and in depth with what we want to do, it's going to be very comprehensive. And they will be assisting us, and it will be going to council, I believe, on January 13th for approval on that.
Okay, so the RFP has already, or is in,
It's already been done, yes.
okay, okay, good. Okay, thank you. Oh, and the other, regarding the Baylands, I think you mentioned in the flooding that happened there, I think you mentioned that you did have a resolution for that, and you found out sort of what happened to cause that issue? Is that, I mean, because we're pretty early into the rainy season, so I'm not sure why that would have been.
Yes, thank you for that. It would have flooded no matter what.
Mhm.
The levels, it was a very high king tide that we had in combination with the storm front that came in.
Okay, thank you.
With the same topic. I was there the day before at King Tide, and there was no problem anywhere. Everything was fine. On Saturday, the rain came and the wind was pushing the water towards the Baylands, our Baylands, towards the shore. And so when the water was supposed to retreat, not only did not retreat after the peak, it just went on and on and on. It was very impressive to see what was happening there. It was really pretty lovely, with the exception of all the critters that had nowhere to hide. So the mice, the birds, everything that is usually hiding in the vegetation at the edges, everything got flooded. There was no place for them. And I actually found one dead salt marsh harvest mouse in some leftovers of a bird that must have eaten it. And anyway, it was really impressive. I think, I don't know how you'd plan for the next one. It seems, and I guess we'll have to, but I was wondering if there were other areas like near San Antonio and Terminal Way, near the area, or even Bixby Park, if there are any areas that experience the same kind of flooding.
Not to my knowledge, no.
So it was only there.
It was there, and it was a little bit further down the trail, down the levee, kind of towards the bridge area, if you're past the interpretive center. So we had a little bit more damage over there, and then along the Adobe Creek Loop Trail, right on the waterfront. But the area that you witnessed was the most significant flooding that we observed in the Baylands.
Well, the water was going over, topping the bridge,
Correct.
and the water was coming over the path
Mhm.
and into the trails and all around the Scout building. It was just enveloped. I saw water coming towards the ranger station. I don't know if that got flooded.
It did not, but it got on top of the roadway.
Yeah, I saw that. It was interesting. Definitely. And I sent you some videos if you want to share them later. I have more if you want to see more. It was quite impressive. But to me, it really showed that that people can evacuate. The animals have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And if we don't provide for them, they'll just be gone.
Commissioner White.
Thanks for the great work, especially with all the flooding, etc. It's really an impressive report on how much you've done in the last few weeks. Commissioner Greenfield and I visited the Bowway Park, and there was also really impressive work and meant to open, I understand, for Christmas, now postponed in the spring quarter. And do we have a definite deadline? And how do we advertise or let the community know? Because I sent some photos to parents. They're so excited. It's a great park. And some even my parents' friends in England say, wow, you have this in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, they had unanticipated delays due to weather and also, to basically just, get the artwork in place. And so right now they are working very diligently within the weather breaks that they get. to try to accomplish all the hard work that they still have to get done over there. In discussions, they were talking about, the early spring as far as a new opening date.
How would we let the community know this opening, and we're having maybe opening ceremony or send notice to people in the area?
So I know
presume?
they're gonna be opening or re-updating the website for the webpage,
Okay.
and that would be the best way to learn the updated information on that.
Okay,
So
Yeah,
that
so
that should be coming soon.
fantastic. It's also very heartwarming to see the tower is being worked on, because I walk past every day. It's on my street, and it's really heartwarming. Thank you for the great work.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Ding?
Yeah, I want to say I'm very glad to see the Cubberley restroom project program. Yeah, I've helped with the survey previously, so very happy to see it's happening.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Did you mention when the Cubberley restroom would be completed?
It should be completed probably in the next several months, I would say.
Next several months?
Yeah. And there's basically a timeline. They were going to phase it in two different phases. So initially they're going to get the well done, the vault that goes down below with the footwork, put the building in, and then they're going to be basically starting with the second phase of opening up and connecting the forced main sewer line in. And so there's a lead time on the pumps for that. Once they get the pumps in, then they can get that in, and then that's a lot of asphalt work. So I would say at least 2 months out.
And how long do you know how long the fields will be closed at Cubberley? It's quite an impressive bike and pedestrian detour in place there.
Yes, it is. The fields of Cubberley, those are not closed due to the renovation of the bathroom or the installation, but I believe that is usually closed down for about 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months.
I believe so. Don't
I
quote me on that one.
know it's a seasonal closure
Yeah.
for just the rest of the fields. Thank you.
Yeah, so what we typically do, we'll close it down during the winter months of, December, January, and I think we reopen it around February, somewhere in there. But that's basically to, reestablish the turf areas, overseed it, let it rest, especially during the winter time when there's a little bit less in play, and get it back into playable condition.
Yep. And I see that the seasonal lighting is back at Cubberley football field.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Vice Chair Freeman?
Yeah, just follow up on, you mentioned that you're still working on the First Tee program. Could you expand a little bit about where that is and kind of close you are to coming up with a final, I guess, document and service?
Sure. So we've completed the short-term agreement. So that's in place with the First Tee. The next things to do is basically to come up with a term paper, basically, which is a working document, which will allow us to work with the First Tee program, George on that one. And what will come into that is basically, to figure out the parameters of the future agreement for the long term, which could be anything dealing with, conditions of days of use of which they want to do, improvements to the course, how long the agreement would be, any kind of funding and programs that they would be offering. And so we do have, we're going to be scheduling a meeting with the First Tee again, probably towards the mid to late January to continue the discussions on that.
Are there any gotchas that might prevent you from moving forward on that?
I don't foresee any, no,
Okay.
not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Cripps?
Thank you. Just following up on the First Tee, is the first agreement or the second agreement going to establish the length of time for the use?
The agreement that we will be currently beginning to work on.
So the second one.
The second one is the one that will be
That's the one.
determining the length of use.
And
yes.
that agreement then will allow the First Tee to raise funds, or are they able to do that now?
I don't see why they wouldn't be able to raise funds right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just thank you for a very robust report. It's been a lot of pictures of bathrooms this year, so we appreciate all the updates. A lot of progress, especially with the rainy season. And the Fred Eyerly Tower Wall Park pictures are great. Even my husband noticed it looked different, which is a big feat because he doesn't notice anything. And Javad, you will be sorely missed. We so appreciate your responsiveness, and we'll be a little bit lost without you. Any other?
I second that.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely second that.
Yeah, we all second that.
So does that mean he's leaving in 6 months or?
I wish.
And we could just do a little round of applause for
Yes,
Gerard and his thank you. Just the best. All right, moving on to business items. The first item is the aquatics annual report.
All right, Sarah, why don't you take it away?
All right, so the annual aquatics report, while that is being pulled up, I will just give some 2024 performance highlights. And then after these couple slides, we'll invite Tim Sheeper up. And why don't you come here, because I'm going to get through these 2 slides very quickly. All right, next slide. So some of the kind of core numbers is very impressive. We've had over 35,000 lap swim visits. In addition, 78% of the visits are Palo Alto residents. So just want to really highlight that. Monthly memberships at 82%. And then in terms of open swim visits, there's over 27,000 and over a majority of those are Palo Alto residents. Additionally, there's been close to 8,000 camps and community swim lessons. And the master's program is over 70% Palo Alto residents. So next slide. Some of the goals for the new year is to increase the number of community swim lessons, increase the number of lifeguards certification classes offered, as well as establish a weekly junior lifeguard summer camp. And for the remainder of the report, we'll have Tim Sheeper. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What I went and did is pulled out around a dozen items from the report, just for a highlight to kind of start tonight's conversation. So our pool schedules are stable. With any changes that are made, either short-term or long-term, they're communicated in advance to the community. And then to reiterate some of those numbers that Sarah went over, lap swim visits are predominantly from Palo Alto residents, and most of the lap swims are from monthly members. And monthly members are just people who are engaging with the program on a monthly basis rather than coming in on a per time basis. And most of our open swimmers, those are the recreational swimmers coming in, the families coming in for the day, are drop-ins. So it's the opposite of our lap swimmers. They're coming in just paying the daily drop-in fee. And then to underscore, the Masters is mostly a resident program. Masters participants, lap swimmers, open swimmers, swim lessons, and the summer camp participants. So pretty much all the programming, they report high levels of satisfactions with the program and their experience with it. But the primary feedback that we're getting is they want more of it. They just want more time on the schedule to be in the water. And here's some usage trends. So lap swim annual visits have declined since the pandemic, though the membership levels have remained relatively constant. So our open swim annual visits have tripled since the pandemic due to the increase in the access to the pool. And then our swim lesson participation has significantly increased thanks to the ability for us to offer more sessions, hire more staff, train more staff to provide those lessons. And our users are generally satisfied with program fees, which are competitive and accessible within the community, and especially for frequent users and seniors. So Rinconada is recognized as one of the top municipal pools on the peninsula. It has an impressive number of lanes to use, extensive hours of operation, and low cost for users. And our company's ability to share our management staff and our frontline staff across 3 facilities that are in the close area has increased access to premium staff while keeping user fees stable, benefiting the community served. Those are just the highlights pulled from the report, and happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. And the full report is linked in the packet with a lot more data and graphs and visuals and things. Since this is a discussion item only, before we go to the commission, do we have any public comment on this item, either on Zoom or in chambers?
I'm seeing no hands raised online or in person.
All right, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for questions and comments. Commissioner Cripps?
I'm happy to start, and we shared the liaison role this year, so if you have comments as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
All right, so first of all, I love the report this year. It was great. Congratulations. I love all the data, and I love what you all are doing. And I especially anecdotally have not heard one comment that was a complaint from any of the aquatic community this year. So unlike the past, this is really good. And I think that we're really achieving the goal of really serving all the residents. So congratulations to you and to the staff. And it doesn't look like we've had to close the pool for lack of lifeguards or any of that. So just really, really good stuff. I have some specific questions about lessons. You said that the lessons have increased. Are we able to provide adult lessons as well? Because there's a lot of adults that don't know how to swim and would like to learn, I think.
Agreed. And yeah, we do provide some adult lessons, and we plan to do more beginning in the spring.
Good.
So spring, summer, and fall will be the lesson season for
Good,
Rinconada.
good. I mean, I'm happy that's the goal. Are we utilizing all the pool time in Palo Alto? And this is kind of leading into the comments that are pretty prevalent about, gee, I'm a lap swimmer and I'd love to swim in the afternoon or in the evening after work, and sort of feeling shut out of that. I mean, I know how busy the pool is, and I don't know what you can do about that. So looking at all the other opportunities for pools in Palo Alto, including Palo Alto School District, have we explored any of those pools?
Most of the pools in Palo Alto are being
Busy.
highly utilized. Yeah. The middle school pools are used by swim teams. The prime time for swimming pools is after school time.
Yep.
So any water in the area is being secured by swim teams, private swim teams, or yeah. Mostly just the private swim teams, yeah.
So I don't know whether this would work, but have you ever thought of maybe just taking 2 lanes or 3 lanes in the evening, like at 8 o'clock? From PASA if they're there, and maybe trying that out as a pilot program to see if that could help some of the residents?
Yeah, we've had discussions with the Friends of Rinconada, the lap swim
Mhm.
group. And we are going to work on something this summer. So I conveyed to them that we're going to see if we can secure some space in the summer with working with PASA to put some lap swim in the evening time.
Good. So just a few more questions.
Yeah.
In the report, very good comments about the staff, and really speaks to your leadership of how the staff responds to the residents and helpful, that kind of thing. So that was great. I wondered about the family restrooms. I didn't see them in the CIP. And are they on the way? Last year, we talked about the fact that they were coming, and I wondered if they had disappeared from the budget or just I missed it, maybe.
Great question. It's currently in the design phase, which is happening this fiscal year. And this item will also be discussed in our next agenda item where we go over CIPs. But in fiscal year 26 is when they are envisioning completion of that project.
Okay, and I guess there's no way to, well, probably for discussion later, to move that up a little bit because it's been on the docket for a long time. So the locker room cleanliness, the locker rooms are always an issue and always a problem. Doesn't matter where they are because it's wet and people are wet and stuff. But of all the comments, I think the locker rooms were probably the biggest issue and not really an issue, but just a concern from people. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we do in the summertime where with the highest usage is the city has provided an additional cleaning through the day to
good.
try to counterbalance the high usage, and it has helped out.
Great. Okay, only 2 more comments. The starting blocks, anything happened to the starting blocks? Did we, is that going to be looked at yet again, or?
I don't think anything's been done with the starting blocks since we've last talked
Since we
about
last
it.
talked about it, yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering, the swim season is coming up, the meet season. Is there a way, I'm not sure that's cheaper as much as it is Public Works. Can somebody take a look at the wobbliness?
We can have somebody take a look at that,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so that's all I have. All in all, I thought it was a great report. I feel like we're really serving the residents of Palo Alto really well, and you all are doing a wonderful job. So thank you very much. I'll turn it over to my fellow liaison.
Yes, just on the lifeguard certification courses and the increase, is that due to demand, need, or a mixture of both? That you're increasing that?
We're increasing that because that just keeps our supply of lifeguards solid through the year. And there's a high demand for pool usage during the early spring when it's warming up and the late summer when it's still warm. And a lot of our guards are either high schoolers or college students. So a lot leave. And those shoulder months and those shoulder weeks are really important to keep the community cool. And so we're trying to really build out our staff a lot more robust than it's been so that we can keep those shoulder seasons open. So it's increasing the certification classes is going to hopefully put us in that position.
That's great. And kind of dovetails into my next question, which is staffing. I feel like the last few times we've had you present to us, there was staffing problems. So it sounds like you're through that. And now you have the staff that you need in order to be responsive to the number of lessons and types of lessons that the community is asking for.
Yes, we're in a much better position. It seems like the willingness to engage and to work has changed. And so we're getting a lot more staff and keeping the staff that we train. So they're staying with us year over year. So it's
Great.
helping us out. Yeah.
That's all you can ask for. And then sort of on those trends, do you notice any, is it fairly consistent? I seem Rincon obviously has a very strong identity for lap swim and for the program offerings that it has, but do you see any shifts in the programming demands at Rinconada? And if so, how are you being responsive to that?
Yeah, it's through the lifeguards. I think the demands that we're seeing are for more community lessons, swim lessons. So we're trying to really increase that. And through those, a lot of open swim, the recreation swim. So in that spring, obviously in the summertime, the demand is so high. But we were trying to do those shoulder seasons too. So it's easy to open the pool during those 10 weeks of summer, but those 3 or 4 weeks on either side of it, that's our challenge. And that's what we're going to try to really beef up this coming year.
Great. Well, sounds like you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Vice Chair Freeman?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the excellent report, as you have been doing for a number of years, so I appreciate that.
Yes.
You mentioned that, I guess, the master's program, that people looking at more time in the water for the program. Is that because of the schedule that they have and are conflicting with other programs that are happening about the same time?
I don't think it's conflict as much as people really enjoy being lap swimmers. They enjoy being master swimmers and they just want more of it. But then it gets down to the feasibility of putting everybody in the water and having that shared environment. And so I think we've achieved some semblance of harmony right now. And I think we're in a pretty good place.
So it's something that you're constantly working on, trying to evolve it and get to the point where it stays sort of even keel, I guess.
Well, I think that the schedule is pretty much set. What we try to do on a daily basis is accordion the pool depending on where the demand is. So there's 7 lanes set for masters in the morning and 7 lanes set for lap swimmers in the morning. But then it's up to the coaches. If there's more lap swimmers than masters show up, then there's the lanes are given more to the lap swimmers, less to the masters. And so there's that movement on a daily basis.
And you also mentioned that there's the lap swimming, you've seen a decline. So I guess that's helped the problem in a little bit. Why do you think that's happening or has?
Well, I think we're comparing to the pandemic when there wasn't that many places that people can go to exercise, gyms and whatnot. And so there was a high usage of people coming to the pool. And so our numbers were, I think we hit, a peak.
And one last question. It was great to see the survey. Is that survey just sent out to just the people who are participating in the swim program? Does it encompass everyone in because it could be, I guess, people in Palo Alto who might have wanted to be part of that program, but maybe got frustrated for some reason or another, or unaware of some of the programs being offered.
Yeah, so the survey does come from the database that we have, and it's not a citywide database.
Do you think that would help if you I mean, I don't know what the impact.
You could get a broader viewpoint of what the community wants from aquatics. We've done that with other cities. They've sent it out and we've sent it out. And yeah, usually you get 2 to 3 times more respondents.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Greenfield?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for being with us again, Tim.
Yes.
I had a question, just referring back to Sarah's 3 priorities or goals. There's increase in the community swim lessons, increase the number of lifeguards, and the lifeguard summer camp. Did I get that right?
Junior lifeguards.
Junior lifeguard summer camp. And so that is a training for new lifeguards, or what's the purpose of this? Or is that related to what you're talking about before in terms of keeping the supply of lifeguards in the pipe going? Or
This is a junior lifeguard program. So what that is basically children between like 9 and 13 years old. So it's just a different summer camp offering. We have real popular learn to swim summer camps. So we have juniors, so real little kids, kindergartners, and then we have our regular camp, so like 7 to 10-year-olds. Excuse me. And this would just be another camp offering for kids just a little bit older. So they go through the basic skills, and it introduces them to the the basics of being a lifeguard. It's just an elevated camp from the other 2.
sure. So do you offer junior lifeguard lessons right now, or this would be something new? I remember doing junior lifeguard lessons, and I couldn't remember how old I was. So thank you for the
Yeah.
refresher.
Yeah, we currently offer junior lifeguards, and it's been predominantly at in Menlo Park. So we want to move it all the way to all of them on a weekly basis at Rinconada Pool, and just have try to build a tradition around junior lifeguards in Palo Alto at Rinconada Pool.
Great, thank you. And any ideas on how many junior lifeguards end up becoming lifeguards employed by your group?
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll have, since we've been around a while, yeah, we'll see kids come from our lesson program into our youth swim teams, and then come into our workforce. And so it is a full circle. So it's real fun to watch that.
Great. Just backing up, how many years now in Palo Alto?
In Palo Alto?
Yeah.
Since the end of 17.
Since the end of 17.
We're fully running the program, and then 2 years before that doing swim lessons. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 15, since 2015, I think.
Since 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah. The start was rockier. There were some bumps in the road for a variety of reasons. It's great to hear where things are at. It kind of feels like the longer term vision that you espoused to potentially skeptical ears at the time is coming into fruition and paying off. The COVID bump didn't help either, but it's great to see things where they are, and thank you for the persistence here and giving to our community in this manner.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And Commissioner Cripps?
Yeah, thank you. Just Jeff, following on the junior lifeguard program, it used to be back in the day that being a lifeguard was the coolest thing you could do in the summertime. And then being a lifeguard fell out of favor. And not just Palo Alto, but pools across the United States had trouble getting lifeguards. And so anything that we can do to stimulate and get the younger kids to come in and be part of a pool program and have the fun of the summer and all of that is great. So I'm very enthusiastic about this. So really, really good. But it reminded me of the history of the whole thing. So it'll make it cool to be lifeguards again.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wei?
Yeah, hi. This is very impressive report, and I'm a new commissioner, so first time see a report this comprehensive with a lot of data and figures. I'm glad you're doing the survey as well, and the result is tremendous with very high satisfactory, extreme satisfactory. Yeah, it's really great goal to have the junior lifeguard summer camp agree. I'm facing youth liaison. I see the data for senior in the percentage of participants. I wonder if it's possible to see, in addition to summer camps, how many youth in our city actually participate in the pool on a sort of regular basis or daily basis. It's a great sport for, health, fitness, and mental health for youth. Is there any way to collect those data as percentage of youth, say 13 to 18?
Oh, collecting the data.
Yeah, you have a
from the-
percentage.
From the youth?
Yeah, for senior, you have a percentage of how many percentage of senior is
Oh,
actually.
seniors
Yeah.
who are using the pool?
Yeah, but there's no data I see. It's a very challenging to collect that. I presume summer is the big time. There's a lot of use in the pool.
I think there's a bit of data that we collected on adults versus senior usage of
Okay,
the
yeah, I
pool.
saw
So
that, yeah.
in the lap swim,
Yeah.
that's where we're seeing the most senior usage.
Mm-hmm.
And from memory, I think it's right in the 45% range. So it's 45% senior, 55% adults
Yeah,
are less than seniors.
yeah,
And so I would think it's, that's close to 50-50. So that's a high senior usage.
yeah,
on a-
I know.
on a daily
What is the use percentage? Is it very youth,
Youth.
like 13 to 18-year-old?
Oh, youth.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Youth using the pool?
Yeah.
Oh, it's extremely high.
So
Okay.
I presume so. I'm just wondering what the percentage would be. And also use that as promoting more youth coming to your pool to swim. In
Okay.
addition, the summer camps.
Well, the youth using the pool, it's from 4 p.m. onwards. It's those are the kids who are 7 to 18 years old. They're predominantly using the pools at the peak time from 4 to 8 p.m. And then the youth using the pool during the open swim time during the summer, those were those high numbers. It's mostly youth using the pool. So,
Yeah, it'd be good to see on the report itself, because I presume it's a very high number.
okay. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the great work.
Other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you so much, Tim, and the coolest lifeguard program that's out there. All right.
Great, thank you, Tim.
Moving on to the next item of business, the capital improvement project updates.
Great, thank you. With that, while we load up PowerPoint, I'd like to welcome Lam Do, who is our Superintendent of Open Space, Parks and Golf, will be providing the presentation. Lam?
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Brown, Vice Chair Freeman, and fellow members of the commission. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you. As Steve mentioned, I'm Lam Do with Open Space, Parks and Golf, and I'm joined this evening and supported by Sarah and Steve as well. This evening, we present to you our draft capital improvement plan covering the areas of program areas in open space, parks, golf, and also recreation. Before I start, I do want to apologize for some projects being omitted from the list in the initial staff report. Our website now reflects the appropriate list, and I think Commissioner Cripps, you pointed out one of the omissions there, so apologies on that. Tonight, staff seeks the commission's input on projects prioritization and any projects that we have not presented or should be considered. Anything that we haven't come across our mind or that you'd like us to take a look at as well. In particular, we want to focus on the upcoming fiscal year 2026 projects. And this review is within the commission's role of advising and planning of capital facilities as well. For members of the public and for our new commissioner, I'd like to just point out some key parameters of a capital improvement project. Sometimes we refer to it as simply as a CIP. Projects need to extend the life of an existing asset or provide a new use of the asset. And one of the other parameters is that the useful life that has to be at least 5 years. And in regards to value of a project, we operate CIPs with a minimum of a threshold of $50,000. When there are needs that are less than $50,000, they're not funded out of a capital budget. Instead, they're expected to be funded out of an operating budget. So the threshold is $50,000 where they can be considered for capital funding. And then the CIPs are packaged and proposed as part of a rolling 5-year CIP plan. However, it's important to just reiterate that council provides funding for the first year of the 5-year plan, and then the years 2 through 5 of the rolling plan are used for planning purposes, but they're not necessarily funded yet. And our upcoming cycle is fiscal years 2026 through 2030. CIPs are prioritized and are based on a number of factors. These factors include council priorities, the city's financial position and funding availability, health and safety. There's operational needs that we always have to consider, while also looking at staff workload and bandwidth, and of course, commission priorities as well. When we look at CIPs, it's a 8-month process in order to start and finish a CIP plan, which right now we're in the 2nd month of the 8-month process. So we started actually back in November, where staff started planning what our capital budget and our capital project needs are. And then we're now in December and in the January period where staff will be submitting to the Office of Management Budget what we would like to request funding for. This will occur for this particular cycle. This will occur in January, and then the OMB, the Office of Management Budget, will over 2 months will review proposals submitted by not just Community Service Department, but with citywide, all departments within the city. They then will consult with department heads and also with the city manager. And then in April, the city manager will provide a proposed capital budget plan and present that to the city council. And then from there, city council will task the finance committee to take a look at the capital improvement program. In between that, there's also review by the Planning and Transportation Commission, and that is part of their role to ensure that what is proposed as capital projects falls within the city's comprehensive plan. And then roughly in May is the Finance Committee's budget hearings, which includes the operating budget and the capital budget and the respective plans. And then in June is when council adopts the budget for the capital plan. And that's sort of the 8-month cycle that we go through each year. Before we look at projects in the fiscal year 26, I just wanted to point out there are 25 projects which we are currently working on in current fiscal year 25. So you see on here, these are some projects are recurring projects that we have annually. Some of these are one-time projects. They range anywhere from our open space areas to our parks to the golf course. And then, as you imagine, with 25 projects, not all these projects will be completed this year. We do anticipate a handful of them to roll over, such as the Baranda Lake Dock replacement, Ramos Park and Robus Park will also be rolling over to another fiscal year, including Commissioner Cribb's inquiry, the Ricanado Pool Family Change Room as well. Thank you. And then now we'll take a look at in open space for fiscal year 26, what we have. We have 8 projects that we're proposing. And I think most of you are probably familiar with these projects in open space. We have about 4 projects that are recurring projects, and then we have a couple of new projects. The eucalyptus tree we will continue that one. That's eucalyptus tree removal. And then the other projects that will continue as well is Foothills Nature Preserve improvements. And these are visitation amenities and safety improvements too within Foothills Nature Preserve. And then we have annual projects that we having to do with lake and pond maintenance, trail maintenance, and such. So these are the 8 projects within open space. And then next we have in the areas of parks, golf, and recreation, we have 14 projects. And these include projects with, these are annual projects such as athletic court resurfacing. These are projects that are carried forward. We talked about Ramos Park improvements, Ramos Park improvements. Those are playground improvements. We're going to continue park restroom installations. And then you can see on here that the Rinconada family changing room as well. And then we also have further work to do at the golf course as well. So these are the 14 projects that are within parks, golf, and the area of recreation for next fiscal year 26. Then when we collectively, when we look at for those areas, I mean, there's actually 22 projects. So we'll be doing these 22 projects. It's a lot. You know, we work cohesively with our colleagues in Public Works, in particular their division of Public Works Engineering, to help us, and vice versa as well, depending on the type of project and the expertise needed. Either staff in community services will manage it, or staff in Public Works will manage it. So with that, and when we look forward to beyond fiscal year 26 and we look at the 5-year plan, we actually have 37 projects that we want to have sort of identified and want to work on beyond fiscal year 26. And keep in mind, fiscal year 26 is what gets adopted and funded, and then the following 4 years after that are for planning purposes. And so the fiscal years 27 through 30 projects can shift. You know, and new projects can be added as well. So that's kind of where we are with our projects. And with that, I'd like to sort of open for a discussion. I'm sure there's a lot of questions and project particulars that I'd be more happy to discuss. And if I'm not familiar with that, Sarah is here as well, and so is Steve. So.
To Commissioner Cribb's question a bit earlier about the starting blocks, that is on the 5-year plan for the Rinconada pool starting blocks. You'll see everything's alphabetized. So if you go towards the end, R Rinconada, and that's planned for fiscal year 27 currently.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation, Lam.
Yes.
This is a discussion item only, but before we go to public comment, are there any clarifying questions? So specific, maybe getting more specific on what a project is, or just holding comments or opinions until we hear from the public. I just have one quick one. Park and restroom installation, can you clarify what park restrooms for fiscal year 2026 that means, just for the larger group?
Sure. So right now we have, just in this year alone, we have accomplished up to 4 restrooms. So just so you have a history on that one. Basically that was over at Robles and Rinconada. Those are the most recent 2. We've got another one at Bulware, which is going in with that project that we mentioned earlier, and then also in Coverly. So that's the 4 brand new restrooms that we will be putting in within last year and this year. The next one that's slated on the list, which is already for funding, is Mitchell. And that is something that was high on demand by the public and by the community. In response, basically that would be at a location which is adjacent to the Magical Bridge location, which also would provide additional restrooms for the tennis courts and pickleball courts. For funding for fiscal year, so on those, basically, we're going to be going into design for spring, summer of 25 for the Mitchell. Then we'll be doing spring and summer and construction in 26 for that restroom. Okay. The next one that's slated for us to be taking a look at is yet to be determined. We do have some ideas on what we would like to see. Potentially, we're going to be going out probably in the second week of January with a survey for Eleanor Pardee. I know there's been a lot of interest and a lot of emails from members of our community and the public. I know this has gone, for looking at that several other times in the past, but I think we have a lot of interest that is growing from the athletic leagues and from the gardeners and from the users of the park in general. So we'll be reaching out to them via a survey, which is typical, mid-January for that. And basically for the funding on that one, that would be for fall 26 for the next restroom with the, or for the design, and then basically spring and summer of 27, more or less, for the construction on that one.
Okay, great. So design of Mitchell is sort of in this fiscal year that we're in right now. Construction would be in the next, and then the survey would be done with the timing where that the design could be included in this next fiscal year budget, and then construction would follow in the next year.
Yes.
And then obviously if the survey results are not what you would expect, then you could pivot to another prioritization.
Correct.
Okay, that's helpful. Any other clarifying questions from the commission on bathrooms or other items? Vice Chair Freeman?
Yeah, maybe this, let me know if this is outside the boundaries, but are there, I guess, any, catch-up projects that fall into this 25 to 30?
I'd say the majority that we're seeing on here are either continuing or catch-up. Yes.
But they're not identified in that fashion, is that correct?
As far as individual projects or?
Right. I mean, the fact that there are catch-up project that might have been in the 24, 23.
Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Each project page, once the proposal goes, that will be included in each project page, which within the staff report that was submitted in your packet,
Okay.
there's a sample of that.
Okay.
And it identifies if it's catch up or keep up. And that's based off of the master plan.
All right. Thank you.
So may we ask where those project pages are available? I could see just the one in the staff report, and my copy, or maybe it's my eyes, had a really tough time reading it. So even trying
Yeah.
to make it bigger, it was really fuzzy. So is there a place that the other project reports are?
Yes, there is, Commissioner. Within the staff report, there is a footnote with a full link to the entire
Okay.
budget book.
Great, then I just
And-
missed it. Thank you.
Yes. Mhm.
I will go back and look. Thank you.
Thank you, Javad.
And could I also ask about the athletic court resurfacing? Are there specific courts that, did you mention that and I missed that too?
The one that we're looking into right now is over at Greer. That's the basketball courts that we'll be hitting in the springtime of this year.
Okay,
And then following on that one, that's to be determined.
thank you.
Could you clarify where the link is to the full report? I'm not seeing it.
The link is located at the bottom of the page 2 of the staff report. It is footnote number 1.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
Okay.
And yes.
We can also provide you the link if you need that, Commissioner.
I'll reserve further comment until after the public has an opportunity to speak.
Any other clarifying questions? All right, seeing none.
In your way, hold on. Can't find it. Are the Eleanor Pardee bathrooms anywhere here?
That would be under the restrooms, just in general.
Okay.
Eleanor Pardee is not called out specifically. We have to do
Okay.
community outreach first.
And you have Foothills Nature Preserve, 7.7 acres, multi-year plan. What's the status of that? Like, what does that include? And some of the other ones too, was just not clear what this is. So
That-
do we have to go back to that budget to see what these are?
So these items on the plan were adopted also last year. So it's on the current 5-year plan. So none of the scope has changed and was reviewed prior. If you'd like, we can, I think for this conversation, we're really trying to focus if there's any changes to the next coming fiscal year. But if you are curious more about scope, we can also supply you with that page in the report.
Okay. So, okay, so what I have to say is not a question, so, okay, thanks.
All right, let's open it for public comment. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand, or if you have a speaker card, turn it into Jawad.
We have 3 hands raised in person. Our first speaker is Nancy. Nancy, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, commissioners. My name is Nancy Kawahita. I'm a Party Park user, and I've addressed you before about the Party Park bathroom. So I hope you have read my email that was included in the agenda packet. I have four points in 3 minutes. 1, we do have a coalition of Party Park restroom supporters who have been vocal about the missing restroom we've been working on this from last year, December, when it was not in the CIP, through currently, but we did work with the city council, and they agreed that in June that Party Park should be prioritized for the 2026 CIP. And community services agreed to do the outreach in the fall of 2024, which ends in a day or 2. So and then Party Park would be added to the CIP. We request a schedule of dates and continuous updates of the process, because since it was behind in what was committed, we would like to make sure we understand when the survey is open, because, and as well as what the other process would be is, will there be a community meeting about it? I remember when I read about Ramos Park, they had a survey and the percentages were to not have the bathroom. And then they had a community meeting and they agreed to have the bathroom. So I think it is a process that has to be well publicized. It has to be transparent. So that's why we're requesting a schedule of dates, continuous updates. I don't know how it can be updated, maybe in this forum monthly, because it is a process and we do have to intercept the CIP. And so my understanding is that would have to be done, outreach would have to be done by department input is February, or so I would like to understand when the cutoff date is or when it needs to go into the 2026 CIP. I have submitted in the email to the commission and to city council a petition of over 70 Party Park users who support the restroom. So there is demand. The city has said they have to do the survey in order to determine if there is demand for the Party Park restroom. And we have talked to AYSO, soccer parents. Am I running out of time? Oh God.
Yes, thank you for your comments.
Anyway, so we have a survey. We also asked the Parks and Rec look at the next parks because it's such a long process. And money has to be put in for the outreach for the next park, and you already have a plan, and there are 5 parks left.
Thank
We'd
you.
like to
We
understand that.
have to move on to the next speaker. Appreciate it.
Our next speaker is Sharon. Sharon, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Sharon Erickson. I'm a former city employee and I currently volunteer several hours every week at the demonstration garden at Eleanor Party Park. I was disappointed to see that Eleanor Party restroom was not listed by name in the list of projects to be proposed for fiscal year 26, the list that you're reviewing tonight. There's a continuing and vital need for a restroom in Eleanor Party Park. When I was cleaning ivy out of the front of the park, I encountered feces, toilet paper. It's inappropriate for the park to continue without a restroom. That need has been documented by Nancy and Penny and the others who've been circulating petitions amongst Eleanor Park users. Given the urgent need, I remain hopeful that a restroom could be installed. They are modular in Eleanor Party Park in calendar year 2025. Please recommend that the Eleanor Party Park restroom be listed by name in the proposed capital budget for next year that's going to be proposed to the City Council in April. Thank you. And can I also say thank you, Javad. We're going to miss you.
Our next speaker is Penny. Penny, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak.
I'm Penny Proctor and I'm a community gardener. And we really need the restroom. Most of the gardeners are old, a lot of them, and some have little kids. There's the full picnic tables with parties every weekend in warm weather. And there's people playing in the fields and the play equipment. It's a very heavily used park. And when we do the cleanup, we sometimes find solid waste that, you know, it's not good to have there. Many of our gardeners have health problems that make it difficult for them to work for hours without a restroom. One of them just turned 86. He's a bladder cancer survivor and has to bring a little container and pee in his car, which, you know, he'd rather not have to do that. The master gardeners would like to be able to have school groups, but they can't because there's no bathroom. We are very lucky to have hands-on Bay Area setting up work days for us where the community gardeners and the master gardeners work together with them and do a whole lot of weeding, wildflower planting. We had 4 work days last year, but this year we only had 1. And that company paid to have a portable restroom for the day. So I don't know how much of a problem it is for them. They haven't told me, you know, she always asks about where's the nearest restroom. And I say, you know, it's 2 miles away. And so I think we could get more help from them if we had a restroom. And they do, oh, those young tech workers are awesome. Weeders. So I hope you can expedite the bathroom for Eleanor Purdy Park. Thank you. And thank you, Javad. We're going to really miss you a lot.
That completes public comment.
Thank you. Lots of love for Javad. I'm bringing back to full commission for discussion, but I just want to give an opportunity to, at the beginning of this, just clarify a little bit more about how the bathrooms are prioritized, whether these 4 in the last year were by name in the CIP, the design versus construction timeline, and then a little bit about the survey and whether or not that's to include it in the plan, or if it's just gathering feedback on if there's a restroom where it would be. Just give a little bit more details on the extent of party being included in what's being presented to us tonight.
So my understanding from the previous restrooms that we're taking a look at, some of the criteria is the park size. It's the amount of users in the park, has to have high activity. The other components that would come into it basically is work capacity of what a staffing level is for design and for construction, and also for funding for the years. The other part that came into it was a master plan that was developed back in Parks Master Plan in 2017, which originally initiated the size, took into account all of those criteria, to which those were put into by name into the master plan. Other factors that come into it would be when input is done or taken and reports such as what's happening now to council members or to commissions, basically from the members of the public stating that they would like to have a bathroom or a restroom in their park. So what we have here now with that is that the one that was just recently done in Boulware, that's another component as well, where if we are developing or putting a new project in, and if we have an opportunity to capitalize on that and leverage that, that's another opportunity where we put restrooms if one was not mentioned by name. So there are a few that were mentioned by name, and I believe Pardee was one of the ones that was originally identified in the master plan. But other ones that come into focus too, basically, are depending on the need, such as the one at Mitchell, for basically when they develop the playground over there, and for the change in usage of the park, basically with the addition of the new pickleball courts, which increase the activity for that location. So it's a whole bunch of separate factors that go into that decision-making process. But one of the first steps that has to be done is, which is also in the plans, is to do community outreach once we have identified potential locations, and to make sure that the community has a need and wants it there. In the event that potentially there's question on whether it should be or not, that can then be taken to the commissions and then to council potentially also for further decision-making.
And just to, I believe there was one other question. A majority of all restrooms are funded out of this CIP project, which doesn't name out, it doesn't switch names. So that funding it's being funded out of the same CIP. So I believe that may have been one of your questions, Chair Brown.
Yeah, so it wasn't that those 4 parks were necessarily in the CIP by name,
Correct.
but they were higher on the prioritization list. And it sounds like, aside from Mitchell, which is already in the sort of design phase, the next one on the list is Pardee, and doing that community engagement is already beginning in January, just a few months behind schedule. And then as it stands right now, assuming that outreach goes well, it would begin to progress forward.
Correct.
Okay. And delivery would be not necessarily next calendar year, but the following calendar year based on the schedule that.
We're looking at the spring, summer of 27.
Okay. All right. That's helpful to clarify.
Which also, I think for the public, that could be 2026.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. Yes.
So it sounds like it's in 27, but it's potentially funding for next year.
Okay, for next year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very helpful. Just wanted to get on that topic while we have interested parties in the room and engaged. So bringing it back to the full commission for discussion on that specific topic, but just that the charge is feedback on the projects that LOM has presented, the prioritization, and any missing projects that are on the preliminary list, mainly focusing for next fiscal year. Commissioner Greenfield.
Just wanted to follow up on the subject we're talking about. Thank you, Chair Brown, for getting some clarifying information out there. Some questions I had. I think it's important to set expectations on when the restroom would be installed and delivered and installed, even if this is fast tracked. It takes a while. There's a long lead. So
Just fabrication alone for one of these restrooms can have a 9-month lead time.
or more.
Yes.
Yes. So following up on that, in the past, we've had the CIPs have been dog park or restroom every other year. Are we still on that kind of a schedule, or are we including both dog park and restroom in the same CIP? Can you clarify that?
It all depends essentially a workload capacity of what staff can have between basically what we can do in community services, working with our partners over in Public Works. And along those lines, I mean, in reality, we may calendar or fund a bathroom ideally every 2 years, but in reality, with the workload, with the time for front loading, basically for it to go through the design phase, the community outreach, and then by the time that we have lead time to have it fabricated, brought to site, you're really looking at 2.5 to 3 years. That's the reality of it.
Right. Okay, and we've Pardee Park has come to the commission, or has been discussed by the commission on numerous occasions. Certainly, there's strong advocacy within the community for a restroom. At the same time, there's been strong pushback from the idea, and that's to a large extent where we are today without a restroom at Pardee. I'm personally hopeful that we can find a way to overcome these obstacles and get a restroom put in at Pardee. But we need to recognize the past and the situation. And so the public outreach is important. So I'm really glad to hear that we're moving forward with that.
Thank you.
Taking a step back at the overall presentation and the information that we're given, I appreciate the presentation and the report given to us. My message is similar to how it's been in the past. I'm frustrated with what's being put in front of us. I think it's the actual information is very limited. The CIP process is extensive. There's a lot of details to absorb. There's a lot of considerations to weigh. None of this is in front of us, essentially, in terms of what's there. In the past, I've voiced frustration that specific dollar amounts aren't included in the proposed CIP for the coming fiscal year. Compared to what was presented to us last year and this year, there was a large table, a couple of large tables that were provided to the commission to review that aren't being provided to us this year, giving much more significant detail of the proposed FY CIP projects. Also, the full 5-year plan was articulated and to the commission. We've seen none of this. I don't feel like we're being provided sufficient information for the commission to fulfill our mandated responsibility to provide input on the CIP. And I really would like to see more information. And I know that the schedule is difficult, but I'd like to review this again next month with more information.
I'm just going to jump in just because Commissioner Kleinhaus and I met as the ad hoc committee with staff and previewed the presentation. And we did have that discussion about the detail of information that was being presented. Something that I think has come before this commission in the past is a lot of detail that means nothing upon project delivery because the dollar amounts have changed, the timelines have changed. And by the time it gets through, especially finance committee and council, there have been a lot of modifications. So I understand wanting to have complete information in order to set the right priorities moving forward and know what's coming down the horizon in 5 years. I do think that we did get a good snapshot of what is in the 5 year versus what is in the 1 year. And the way it was framed in this way was meant to really narrow the conversation on the buckets and priorities and not get in the weeds about specific dollar amounts that are likely to change and likely to not be realistic in the end of term. So we really wanted to focus the conversations on just the general priorities, which is the purview of this commission, not getting into the bids and dollar amounts and budgeting. So really just staying with the charge of the commission as set by the city council.
I can appreciate what you're saying regarding the dollar amounts, that is getting into the weeds and not including that may be reasonable. But what about providing the full 5-year vision to the whole commission to be reviewing? So are you saying that it was sufficient for the ad hoc to review this, and what's being given to us today is sufficient?
Again, so like that last slide that Lom showed with all of the 5-year projects that were on there by in alphabetical order.
Right, it's flashed in front of us at the meeting. It wasn't provided to us in advance. I mean, I don't understand how we're supposed to comment on this.
And the 5-year plan also changes because projects get rolled over. And so it's a very tentative framework, as we've discussed with staff. Looking at something that's in year 5 in great detail right now is not the best use of the commission's time, as we saw it as the ad hoc, and that we can wear that. And we just thought it would be better to focus on this fiscal year and have a meatier discussion on things, because we knew that there were going to be substantial topics like the park restrooms that really needed a lot of more time from this commission to weigh in on. I think there's talking about year 3, 4, 5 in great detail now was not the best use of the commission's time. And that was our call with staff.
Okay, I'm not suggesting that we would spend a lot of time talking about what's coming down the pipe 5 years from now, but I think it's very helpful from a big picture perspective for the full commission to be able to see this. And if there were, for example, something that was slated for 3 years from now and I felt strongly about it, it'd be an opportunity to suggest bumping that up in priority. And if we can't even see what's in there, it's difficult to come up with it. That's my comments.
I will also just add, staff has a big backlog. If you, Javad, if you wouldn't mind going back to the slide deck of how many projects that staff is trying to basically just catch up. We are completing projects from 10 years ago that have been on the list. So with that, we're really making a big effort to get through the projects that this commission has also planned and vetted before, and doing it in a way where we're trying to catch up. And this is a very significant amount of CIPs that just our division, along with Public Works Engineering, is handling. And we have felt that we're trying to, rather than adding and adjusting priority, really focus on, do we have the right areas and for next fiscal year? Because we've realized how much things change again, and some projects are continuing to roll over.
One trend that we always see is if we look back on what the current priorities are, not only from 25, but from 24, 23, a lot of the projects that are, number one, ongoing and continual, but quite a few of them also, we can only toss in 1 or 2 to have a realistic, achievable goal, rather than dumping a whole bunch of in there, because we've actually had to kick a bunch more, potentially even further down the line. One of the things that staff is also utilizing too is that the necessity or age of the park and condition of the park, for the ones that we put in there for fiscal year of 26, have the biggest and greatest need for some of the park improvements, depending on use and age of
the playgrounds, facilities. So what we were trying to do, basically also chiming on what Chair Brown was saying, and also Sarah here, is that we're trying to basically minimize the overall focus so that we can get a lot of feedback of what's actually attainable and doable, rather than putting a bunch of things on the list to where we're going to have to kick it all the time.
I appreciate the limitation in staff resources and that there's a backlog that's being fulfilled. And we know there's a lot of park renovations and restrooms that have been in the pipe for years, and they're finally getting fulfilled. However, I don't feel it's appropriate as a commissioner as a commission that's supposed to review the plan, for staff to be precluding the input from the commission, which I feel like is what's happening here. And just an example on the level of the detail, in the staff report that we received, there's a list of projects that are adopted. There's a reference that 10 of them are being continued into 26. Why not list that information? Provide that information to us. It's just the level of detail is, and the data that's being provided for the commission to consider is very limited.
Okay, no
Thank
taken.
you. Yeah, thank you for the feedback. Do you have any specific questions that we can answer?
I'll turn it over to other commissioners at this point.
I was an ad hoc and I saw this before, but I didn't realize just how big a bucket these are. And so, for example, the questions that were asked earlier, and I asked one of them, was about the order in which bathrooms will be planned, right? And so there's park restroom installation, that's it. It's important, but a little more information as to the ranking, which ones are, this one is complete, this one is processed, this one is coming next, would be helpful. And I think it's true for, it's hard for people who did not have a very long meeting with you to know what these boxes actually include. Eucalyptus tree removal, where? You know, some more detail on what these entail, I think would help the people who did not have a chance, like the ad hoc, to ask. I have a few other things that are not here at all, which is what you kind of want to hear, I think. But I don't know if people want to comment first on the format of the meeting, so that I can wait for that.
I mean, we did have a lengthy discussion,
You
Commissioner.
and
Klein-
I
yeah,
did.
No, with staff on this
Yeah,
list.
you and
And
I
also the projects that we're looking at right now are in that link, and they've been discussed by the commission. They've been in the budget. There's a little bit of accountability of us doing our homework, us reading the budget book that gets adopted at every step that gets proposed. Like, it's not just what's in the staff
But
report in
this
front of
is
us.
what-
We have, when it's not what's being presented to us, we have to do a little bit of due diligence and make sure that we're informed about the projects. I don't think it's right to ask staff to spoon feed every speck of information to
This is what the public
us.
sees. This is what the public sees. The public doesn't know any of this. So even if I read a lot more and I do more homework, the people that are not here, they see this, they don't know what to ask.
And then we are working with staff to make sure that we're asking the right questions and teasing out the information that's pertinent to the discussion, which is our charge as commissioners.
Yeah, but this is not transparent.
But then you should have spoken up at our
I
ad hoc
should
committee
have,
meeting,
and
because
I
we did
will
go
next
over this
time.
in great
I'm
detail with
sorry I
staff. And
didn't. I should have.
are there any other questions for staff?
Yeah, I just want to, I mean, in reviewing a lot of the information here is trying to understand how, you understand more about the staff, what you have available as for staff to be able to, within the different departments, to move projects to the next level. And so when we look at, and I guess you do have a criteria that looks at that, is whether or not just a particular project is addressing immediate health and safety concerns. And I guess we look at you to be able to come up with a recommended priority based on what comments and that you're getting from, not only from the council, but also from our constituents. And to try and help, I guess, recommend to us what you think is a recommended priority based on your interaction or input from other departments that are just as probably overwhelmed as you are. Because I guess bringing these projects that keep coming over from year after year after year, it's hard to kind of visualize that a new project that peaked up because of some a public interest or some safety concern is something we have to focus our attention on. So to me, there's a missing component there. And part of that is helping us get to the point where we can come up with the priority for the particular project.
Great, thank you.
Would it be helpful, Javad, can you advance the slide to, yeah. We're happy to go through if there's scope that you're interested in hearing about, to do that with questioning and verbally respond. If that's something, this is the open space proposed preliminary CIP projects. We're happy to go, take this slide if there's a specific scope or funding that you're interested. We're happy to address that as questions come. If some of these are of interest, we can also go advance to the following slide, which showcases parks, golf, recreation, or the comprehensive next slide of all proposed preliminary 26 proposals, if that's helpful.
I have a question about the open space. Buckeye Creek restoration, is that in one of these boxes? There were efforts to redesign Buckeye Creek. There were ideas, there was some kind of design at some point that was going to be potentially going into looking for grants to install it. Is that in here?
That's not in this fiscal year. It's the 7.7 acres.
It's not. Buckeye Creek is not the 7.
It's though incorporated within that, because I actually recently met with David Moss with the Friends of, I believe Foothills or Friends of the Parks.
Friends of the Parks.
And we also discussed that project and soliciting grant funding for that. So I'm recently just getting up to speed on that project, but it is forthcoming and on the 5-year plan.
Okay.
I believe that's a different project, though, the 10.5 acres in Foothill and the Buckeye Creek. Buckeye Creek was the $10 million project about 10 years ago, I think, that should be on the grant list. So.
There's multiple levels of Buckeye Creek. The full restoration plan for all sections was $10 million a number of years ago, and I'm sure it's further out of reach now. But there's also issues of maintenance work on the structures that are keeping the creek in place now, and the cutting of the creek. This is an example of something that's been roughly in the 3 to 5 years out permanently. It never creeps up, and so being able to see the 5-year plan would make it more realistic for the commission to comment on that.
So thank you for that, Commissioner. So just looking at the description, basically, that would be the Foothills Nature Preserve improvements, which is on the fiscal year 26. Buckeye Creek is one of the items that is included with that we can take a look at.
Just an example, if we had the information just a little more granular information of what each of the CIPs included, and we're able to review that in advance.
Understood.
That also includes the new trail that is going soon right? The foothill nature preserve improvement, or is that before the trail and the parking changes?
That would be included on that as well.
The Foothills Improvement Project is exactly that, the visitor parking, updating trails, parking.
So it's both the improvements to parking and trails and also Buckeye Creek and the 7.7 acres are all in this foothill nature
No,
preserve?
only the Buckeye Creek portion of it was on the description of this. But we may break that into different portions depending on, again, scope of work, span, and then basically the amount of funding available.
Well, are you going, is the city applying for grants for this improvement for the Buckeye Creek? Are you guys applying?
I'm not
for
aware of any
grants?
grants that are, being, applied for at this time. No.
So if there's no grants, it's never gonna happen. We've been through that. It's how many years?
Well, we're talking about different things. I mean.
Okay, I'm getting confused here.
I mean, the big picture, the big picture plan to potentially, it's a restoration of Buckeye Creek to flood out half of the, there's three sections of it. There's this Wild Horse Valley where the road goes to the campground. And that would be, and then there's the Las Trampas Meadow, which should potentially, the creek would take back half of the meadow and in a long skinny fashion. And then the 7.7 acres is the third portion of Buckeye Creek. As far as the restoration, we know that's not in the CIP. That's a huge dollar amount item.
Correct.
But as far as the creek grade control structures, the gabions and things like that have been deteriorating for a number of years. That is probably what's in that hopefully is in the budget for 20.
I mean, if we're looking at the Buckeye Creek restoration project of what's been down the road, that's going to take permitting. That's years down the line.
Yeah, for the Foothills Nature Preserve improvements to replace the grade control structures along Buckeye Creek is part of that scope, which is included in the fiscal year 26 preliminary CIP proposals that are rolling over.
Okay, but the restoration is not.
Correct.
And is so I know things like the habitat fencing, the pedestrian safety improvements are included. Is the new trail part of this or not? I'm thinking the new trail isn't. That would connect the Baranda Lake area with the parking area above it on the road towards the viewpoint, Vista Hill.
There was basically discussions, I believe, of not necessarily adding a new trail, but pedestrian walkways along the roadways up top, to where it can take basically users who park on the roadway in a safe manner to access different areas of the park. I know originally there was thought about putting a trail directly down one of the hillsides or slopes. That's not going to happen. No.
That's what I thought. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
So if I went, is there a page or a website, a page on the website where all these things that we just discussed or described and kind of given a future aspiration or happening tomorrow? Like, is there somewhere I can find this information about Foothills that has all these projects and where are they in the progress of things?
Good question. I would say a majority of the information is all already in the 5-year plan that's adopted currently. In terms of where we're at with each project, that's something we're happy to provide an update, and it's, that's something that we can, continue to provide a staff report if that's something that we're hearing is needed.
It sounds like maybe the footnote link, if we had those pages just as an attachment in the staff report, it may be a little bit more clear for the commission and the public that for the projects that are listed. And then if there is a project update or a status or the years associated that we could just provide in the future, I think that would be easier for the commission to digest rather than having to go and click on a link and look at a document.
Also, it wasn't obvious that the link was there to drill down for further information. I mean, I did see it, but I didn't.
It wasn't a link, it was a
Yeah, that
footnote.
wasn't a link,
Please,
it
it
was-
was a footnote. Please include a link instead of a footnote.
Commissioner, previously, we would have provided a hyperlink in the staff report. However, the city style guide has gone away from hyperlinks in staff reports and it replaced them with footnotes.
Thank you. Good to know.
Yeah. It's good to know.
Shall I continue a couple more before? Yeah. So one of the things that you weren't there, Sarah and Steve, but we asked about some of the functions that the city partners with nonprofits to do, but they're really important. Weed control in some of the more sensitive habitats, things like that. I don't know where that budget, if it exists, where does it exist? Let's say thistles that are taking over some of the uplands at Foothills Park.
Well, we have continual, agreements that we work with grassroots ecology and other groups like in the Baylands. We have volunteer groups that do weed pulling. They were actually just out there last Friday, I believe it was.
I saw them.
Yeah, so we do work with a lot of volunteer groups, environmental volunteers. And within those agreements, I know that they basically help us manage areas in the open spaces within Arastradero and Foothills. And the priorities which are set with that can be made in collaboration with our park rangers out there, the supervising park ranger, and specifically with our guidance.
And much of that is operational budget funded rather than CIP.
Okay, that helps. But we basically rely on volunteer organizations to provide that service.
For restoration, typically, yes.
So,
For other management, we also, do, annual trail brushing and fuel abatement work as well to manage the open space areas.
Last one, after the flooding event, do you expect any of these priorities to change?
We already have it planned in fiscal year 26 to address the levee conditions for that. So we're looking at entering into the design phase, basically to see what we can do for design and permitting to do improvements on the levee exactly where we have the flooding at.
Please keep that work transparent to the public. There'll be a lot of interest.
Absolutely, thank you.
Commissioner Wei?
yeah, since the operational budget was mentioned, I'm pondering an idea. If we, we repair all the parks and have all the restrooms, if we reinstall the shuttle to bring youth and senior to, say, Foothill Park, how would that work? Do we work with the transportation department? Should I put into a meeting together with the city staff, both you and the transportation?
Maybe we can speak offline. Yeah, I think that would be best.
Okay, thanks.
I'll reach out to you.
Okay, great, very comprehensive report, by the way, Lamdo, it's very good.
Commissioner Wei's idea sounds like a great idea, and I know it's something that has been discussed by the commission and she's been pushing for. It sounds like maybe it's not ready for a CIP yet. It's more preliminary for consideration before it could be included as a CIP, or would it even be?
I need more. this is the first I'm hearing of it, so that's why I think it would be more productive if we speak offline and I can understand prior
Yeah.
to.
I think it's in the concept phase at this point.
It's in the comprehensive plan, and it's in, I think, also the Parks Master Plan, to have a shuttle that goes to Foothills and Arrastradero. So it's not new. It just never happened.
The concept hasn't been developed.
We can definitely take a look into that, do a little bit of research, and then we can report back on that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Commissioner Cribbs?
Yeah, thank you. If we could go back to the restrooms, please. I wanted to just be sure that the Mitchell Park Magical Bridge by the pickleball area, that restroom is on the docket for community meetings soon, the design meetings, to find out where we're going to put that. And then what's the date that you feel like that restroom will be installed?
So on that one again, we're going to be looking at the spring, summer of 25.
Of 25, so coming up.
That. Yes. So outreach will begin. We'll have community meetings with our Public Works Department, and then we'll follow the same process along the way.
Okay, so again, that one for me is a really critical restroom because of the attendance at the Magical Bridge and all the kids and parents and all of that. So following that is the Party Park restroom. What can we do to advance that earlier in the year? What could we take out as, what could we recommend as commissioners if people are in agreement that we should see that on a higher priority? Just because I think Commissioner Greenfield and I remember when we started the master plan with a restroom in all the parks, and Party Park was on the list, and we did not have agreement from the residents that that would be a good thing, and so that fell off the list. And so now it appears to me that everybody's pretty interested in restrooms at Party Park, but not in 2027 or 2028, sort of sooner than that. And I'd like to also suggest that it really is very discriminatory toward females to not have a restroom in Party Park, just because it's pretty easy for little boys to use the bushes. It's not so easy for little girls or adult women to do the same. And I think it's a real issue and a real problem, and I'd love to see us push it forward. So I think that's probably enough from me about the restrooms, but it really is important to me, and my term is up pretty soon. So I wanted to make sure that I talked about that. Sarah, also, I wanted to ask you about the skate park. I know that it doesn't appear on the list right now. Is there a possibility to put it someplace on a list for a priority, or no, not even a priority, just that it's going to happen? Or are we just, how are we going to handle that?
Yeah, when we had our most recent discussion with Sam and about fundraising, once fundraising is started and there's lead donation, I think that at that time, that's when the project needs to then be added to the 5-year plan.
But we wouldn't be able to do that this year to even add it. Is that correct? Or are you able to add it?
As I stated at the ad hoc when meeting, if lead funding's available, meaning a majority of the money is raised, then at that time we would then be incorporating it into the 5-year plan.
Okay, I'm just interested that they don't get the lead funding and then it has to wait for 5 years to be incorporated.
It was council directive that once funding's available, then it would be added to the plan.
Thank you.
I just want to comment on what you said. I mean, I love bathrooms. I'm pregnant, so I really love bathrooms. But because especially these sites have not necessarily been unanimous in terms of their support in the past, it sounds like what's being presented to us in terms of getting that community outreach beginning in January. We have seen lots of petitions that we go out and do community meetings and feedback, and maybe that's actually not the consensus of the greater group. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying that we do need to do the due diligence, but it does sound like this is essentially fast-tracked as it's proposed in front of us. And then
So am I understanding that we're doing the community outreach for the Party Park in January?
there's a community survey.
There will be a survey going
The
out,
survey,
absolutely.
and then when is the community, would the community meeting follow that?
That would depend on the survey. So we're right now reaching out to the community in general. We're going to get a survey done. Once we find out whether we have favor to progress or not progress, then we can report out on that and then make a decision on how to proceed from there.
Can I add a comment for
That's better news.
Commissioner.
Yeah, I want to add one more comment about Party Park. I used to live in that neighborhood, and I think it's a beautiful community space, but the lack of restroom really limited its usability, especially there's a nearby elementary school, Neck. Students cannot hold events there because there's no restroom. So yeah, hopefully that when we do the survey, reach out to the school, the parents community, hopefully we'll get very positive results. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great comments. Thank you. And then I just want to, I think Commissioner Cribb's comments are sort of perfect, encompassing why this was framed in the way that it was. It was, what can we deprioritize to get this bathroom moved up? And then also, how can we add skate park to this year? So it's very hard to continue to work on that backlog of projects that are carried over year to year when these new things are coming forward. And we're looking at year 3, 4, 5, what can we move up to year 1? And so that's why the focus of this conversation is really to look at this 1 year, look at what's being carried over. I understand more detail was requested and needed in order to understand the scope of the projects, especially the existing projects and a status. But would trying to get away from false expectations for the community and thinking that just because they see it on a list in year 5, that there is a chance that it's going to get moved up and it's going to, and that there is the staff capacity for that, because I don't want residents thinking that something is happening tomorrow when even when it is on the list and it gets approved, there's still a wait time on the fabrication. And so it is in an effort to be transparent and really deal with the not just the funding that is required to get these projects done, but the staff. And it's a lot of times the same staff doing a lot of these different projects. They're doing the design of the bathroom, but they're also doing the construction. So that was all done mindfully with staff in order to really craft this presentation and the report in a way that was not going to set up false expectations and really deliver on realistic timelines for the community.
Yeah, it sort of goes back to what I was saying earlier about feasibility and resources. And you guys know what the resources are, but I think also looking at that capacity and funding availability. The funding is probably not I mean, it is an issue, but the biggest thing is resources and having those available. But I think also the transparency and for us to get back on track with people knowing that a date or an anticipated, if it's going to happen in fiscal year 26, 27, that people can kind of put a stake in the ground, do understand that things do change. And I think we have to do, I guess, a better job of just putting the information out there and posting realistic timelines that are based on resources that are available to do that. And there's a lot of different, I guess, people, departments that have to be involved in this, and that's where you guys are working with your different departments within the city to see whether or not they have the resources to also help with these projects. So that just just goes back to us. We're going to conduct a survey. We're making sure that survey does in fact get the information from all of the residents in that area, and then the timeline on that survey, and then what's expected at the results of that survey. I think people want to know, if I do respond to this survey, when can I expect the results of it, and then what's the next step after that, so they can we can move forward with that.
Commissioner Greenfield?
And just following up on what Commissioner Freeman said, I raised the request to include dollar amounts, even if there were dollar signs like $1 sign, $2 sign, $3 sign, just to provide context, because that's important in the prioritization. If we know something is in the $50,000 to $100,000 bucket, as opposed to a $500,000 bucket, maybe $1 sign versus $3 signs, whatever, that helps us understand why something might be prioritized as it is. It's a factor in the prioritization. Getting back to specifics regarding the El Camino Park field replacement, is there a potential that this work can be done this summer?
El Camino or Stanford?
At El Camino, at El Camino.
No, we're going to have.
I mean, because the fiscal year starts in July. The request had been previously to hopefully have things in the pipeline so that Mayfield would be done in the current fiscal year, and then.
So along those lines, so we have to do the study first and complete the study, which was requested from us. And then once we get that, and once we do the findings, then we have to bring that to council, and then council will provide the recommendations on how to move forward.
Right. So backing up, forgot about that. That's the study of whether or not we're going to continue to use synthetic.
But we definitely have that on our brains.
Yep,
and
thank you.
Try to make that happen.
So projected time, do you have projected timeline in general for
the
when?
The study is targeted to be done with enough time so that we will be able to provide results to council with recommendations and presentations. And I believe we have an intended to go to an informational presentation here with the PRC as well. But we intend to do that prior to the budget so that we have a way for them to provide enough information to make a decision on what direction that we can potentially go in prior to the approval of the 26 budget.
Okay, so before May.
We're fast tracking it.
Right. And so if it's approved in the budget, when it would be too soon to expect a possibility of getting the fields done in July or August when the.
Well, it all depends. If we're talking about replacing it back to natural turf, now you're talking about a major project. That's complete tear out, complete rip out, bringing in all the new materials for soil grading, irrigation.
Understood. I wouldn't, if we were moving, if we decided that we were going to replace it with new synthetic turf.
Then we would take a look at what time is feasible to do it within the allotted, depending on how far along Mayfield is. And then we will try to get it done working basically within timelines if we can on that to make that happen.
And the reason I bring this up is that the summer is the most attractive time from the stakeholders and in terms of a more limited use of the clubs. The fall and the spring is busy time, and the winter is not, the weather isn't necessarily conducive.
Great, thank you for that.
Commissioner Kleinhaus?
Oh, a couple of questions. One is, when you talk about prioritizing, is there anything that you feel that can be deprioritized, that the community lost interest, that there was something that years ago, somebody, felt that it was really important to do, and 10 years later, it's on our list here, but there are people who really wanted that thing or moved on?
That's something that we can take a look into. To be honest with you, I haven't had a lot of time to really dive into that, just being new to the position and all that, but I appreciate that, and that's something that definitely we can take a look into.
I think, like, I live near Ramos Park. There have been some improvements to the park over the years. I don't remember a huge number of people saying, oh, we really need renovation here. Maybe there was, and I was just not aware of it. And I don't know how much, and this is just, I'm not saying drop Ramos, I'm just saying maybe there's some things here that could be deprioritized to make room for things that people really want and need some outreach and work on. So just look at that potentially. And the other thing is restoration is not here. And so, yeah, we discussed the Buckeye Creek, but there's also on the bay, the ITT project. And there have been, that showed up on the draft BCCP as a place that could be restored, enhanced, restored. And I think we should have that on the list. And the other thing that I would like to see on the list, and it may be one and the same eventually, is doing something real for the burrowing owls. They're endangered. People always see them, always want to see more. And we lost them. We see occasionally an owl here and there in winter, but we don't have a breeding population anymore. And I think working on that, I don't know if it's a CIP project yet, but need to start thinking about it and potentially talking to the Habitat Agency because they have the money to do it. And they will not require the city to do the work, or almost all of it.
I appreciate that input on that one, and that's definitely something we can look into. I know that, my experience with this, that I've managed burrowing owl habitat in the past. And the best way to protect the habitat for those is to have a completely enclosed, fenced off area from the public and from dogs. And other animals which may come into and encroach in onto their habitat. Even though they are migrating, they do need that space and privacy so that they have a chance to survive. So finding and dedicating a specific location, if that's a possibility, is something that would have to be looked at as well.
So, yeah, and that's something, I think there are some areas that it's possible to do in Palo Alto, and there are actually some areas that are already fenced. That's why I said, let's look at the ITT project area.
Noted. Thank you.
I'm just going back to the comments on prioritization. I just would caution us to get too far down the road of responding to communities' interests as the only criteria for prioritization, because I think this list is presented based on the age of the park, the age of the infrastructure, and while it may be perfectly great to some people that have lived in the neighborhood and there's nobody complaining, I don't want the department to not stop being proactive about making those safety changes. I think that's something that the city of Palo Alto in general has been wonderful about with their CIP program. And so just waiting until a squeaky wheel comes forward and being responsive to that is not the way to create a really robust CIP plan. So just making sure that we're allowing staff to apply that objective criteria and not just keep it subjective comments. Commissioner Greenfield?
I agree with that. And I know that the staff has a 20 to 30 year rotating cycle for the update of all the parks. And if we delay some parks, then we're going to be effectively delaying all parks. So we need to be aware of all the big picture implications of what seem like potentially small changes.
Well, and I'll just make a note to that. One of the most impressive things when I came here was when I went to the parks. I was a user, with my daughters and everything, of the parks itself. And over the years, one of the things that I did note is the upkeep and maintenance. It's impressive. And that's one of the things that has been fulfilled over the years that I've seen through this CIP program, is that even though the city has gone, depending on funding or capacity with staff, they always have made that effort to improve the parks and the park conditions for the users, so that they do provide nice recreational amenities that are safe for use for all the people at the park. So that's one of the things that I was really impressed with. So thank you.
And just back to Ramos Park, I remember the last time it was updated, it was around the year 2000. I was living nearby, noticed it. We were in the stage of frequenting the playground a lot in those days. And so it's probably about time.
Any other questions or comments?
One more question.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Lighting in some of the parks, there's overlighting. So I would say reducing lighting, overlighting would be a good thing to include. I don't know how much it costs, but there is several parks that are overlit at night. Thank you.
Commissioner Cripps?
Yes, could you explain a little bit about the park and development impact fees and how that money gets allocated? And if there's money in those accounts right now?
Yes, the city has, in regards particular to parks, there are two types of development fees that are assessed to development throughout the community. There is a park dedication fund, and then there's also a parks impact fee. Collectively, I believe they're called community, I'm sorry, they've been renamed community. I don't want to misquote, but those two funds are collected based on the value of the development, but they also are restricted in how they can be used. In general, not specific to any particular case, but they can only be used to either acquire additional parkland, or they can only be used where a new use of a park will be created based on what that would fund. Keep in mind, these fees are collected because development brings in more users in the community. And so that's why it has to be specifically to the benefit of not necessarily improving something that already exists, but actually to the benefit that enhances the capacity of a park or an amenity, or to purchase more parkland. This explanation is very general. There are very specific uses that get really more detailed. So unfortunately, it would be very difficult to tease that out at this time.
Understanding that I feel like the commission was hoping to have more information in order to discuss the prioritizations. And I think what we've heard is that there is still a lot of backlog of projects. The staff has done their best to present the prioritization based on the criteria. And does the commission feel like they have enough information at this point, or would we be interested in hearing this item again in January? And before we answer that, staff, is that completely blowing up the timeline for this, or how would that work with the schedule you already presented?
Lon?
I'm sorry, can you clarify that, please?
If we were to continue this item to January and just get a little bit more on those project description pages and status of current projects is what I'm hearing from commissioners, is they're wanting more detail on each specific project. If we were to do that, would that impede on the timeline for the one that you presented with coordinating with other departments and committees?
Javad, do you also want to pull up the timeline on the
schedule.
PowerPoint? I think that would be helpful.
We as staff are tasked with submitting our capital improvement projects. Roughly mid-January is when we would need to complete them. There is a little bit of leeway of last minute modifications, but mid-January is the date that we've been given to submit what is essentially what we plan to be our 5-year requests.
Okay.
And looking at the timeline, then if our next meeting wasn't until late January, that would put us behind.
Sure. Could it be an informational item on what was submitted? And then I don't know if there's any process for if there were to be substantial changes from this commission. I'm just asking to see if that's a possibility. So just go over in more detail what was submitted so we can look at the individual project pages. And if there was something that the commission wanted to weigh in on, that we could sort of submit that after the
We can
fact?
absolutely do that, yes.
Okay. Does that sound, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm curious, in terms of what you're looking for, can we just kind of confirm too of, so moving forward scope of what fiscal year? Are you just looking at fiscal year 26? Or is this for the 5-year plan.
I think it would be helpful to focus on 26 with just a listing of the ones in which year they're in for the 5-year is what I had heard. And then if we did have the project pages for any existing projects from the 5-year CIP, if those could be included in the packet so that people can review that. And those do have dollar amounts assigned to them for that. That can give you some general sense of it. But I think that information and then any status that is not in those pages that are already pre-existing is what I heard, but if, let me know if I'm missing.
But I think even
something else.
along with that would be some type of chart or graph that would show sort of the likelihood of that project staying on timeline or being able to be completed within a certain time frame based on resource availability and other, maybe maintenance projects that might derail the scope of it. I think it's like, I don't know, could be a chart, red, yellow, green, or whatever, just showing the likelihood of it. And I mean, only you guys know what your resources are. And I think we have to look at,
What-
the prioritization of it.
Right. What I've seen in the past, I think what the commission is used to seeing basically is a rundown and basically of all, basically the projects, CIPs, which are done. And then on the top, basically you would have the years and then the anticipated time on when potentially that could be done. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, I think a good starting point would be to look at the agenda from a year ago, the CIP.
I've seen that one, yes.
And
So you're looking for something similar.
something
As an
similar.
update.
As far as what Commissioner Freeman's was saying in terms of a rating, that's a likelihood that sounds quite difficult to do. I'm not sure. how-
Well, I don't think it's looking at it being accurate, but I think it gives you kind of
It'll give you a snapshot
how close to
on what
reality
we're
it
thinking.
is actually
Well,
take
and,
place.
and I think the plan that we're putting forward is exactly that. So I think that would then be captured in what Commissioner Greenfield is.
I think all the information that you guys are asking for exists in those pages. It's just you're wanting it in a summarized format. And I think Vice Chair Freeman, what you're asking for is like a criteria that they used in order to come up with the prioritizations. I just hesitate with, again, putting too much information with the expected year and people kind of, they see a chart with a year on it, fixate on it, and it's something that's completely out of control by the department, that there's a disappointment. So I think using as much already existing information that is already, not necessarily asking staff to create something brand new, but just package it so that we have all the information in one place. And that way the commission feels like they have what they need in order to really understand what the scope of a project is in fiscal year 26, 27, 28.
And I think the staff has done an excellent job of creating the 5-year ladder for when projects are coming in. A lot of difficult decisions need to be made, and and sometimes it's adjusted by city council when it gets to them, following staff recommendations. We're not looking to make major changes to this, but it's difficult. It's much easier to comment on something that where you see the whole picture on things rather than trying to think of things that are what's missing on the list.
Understood.
And if there are any changes based on what we talked about today, then maybe you can let us know as well.
We can do the research on that as well.
Okay. Is that sufficient direction on this item? Do we have any other comments? Staff have what they need?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Moving on. Thank you, Kalam. Next business item is the update the work plan and confirm middle school athletics ad hoc. And this is an action item. And so this was direction from city council, or does staff want to frame this, or do you want me to just go into? Yep, great.
Yeah, just go right into it. That's fine.
And so this was something that came out from our presentation of the work plan to city council, was to essentially add a new work plan item, which is now mid-year, to add, looking at the middle school athletics program. And I can pull up the motion language because it is quite lengthy, but we talked about this at our last meeting and said that we would be creating an ad hoc at this meeting and to give commissioners time to think about their workload and interest and sort of read the motion from city council. And so I just wanted to open up to the group once we have some assigned. Oh, thank you. Perfect. Da-da-da. Okay, so to evaluate the middle school athletics programs and recommend approaches to align with the current program with universal access for students and state law and evaluate outsourcing middle school athletics to nonprofits. So very specific. And so what we were looking for, I would say 2 to 3 commissioners to join this, and they would come up with the rest of the work plan items. So the beneficial impacts timeline, resources needed, higher priority items, lower priority. And I imagine this would be something that would potentially continue over to the next year. Just as a note for the commissioners that were set to expire in March, their terms have been extended to November. So that does open, if they were interested in serving on this ad hoc, at least through the rest of our work plan year. So if there was a strong interest, but I do think it is very specific and it will require some work. So I was imagining 2 to 3 commissioners on this item, depending on interest.
And we also, for background, if needed, we have Adam Howard from our recreation. He's a recreation manager who's online.
Just one high level comment. As far as the goal, would it read better if the word with were omitted following align? I think you're trying to align the program with the universal access.
I don't know that changes the scope of the project. I was just more focused on who's being assigned to the project itself.
It's purely a cleanup, not
Right.
suggestion.
Any interest in joining the ad hoc from any commissioners? Yay, great, thank you. All right, Commissioner Ding.
Are the current ad hocs extending those ad hocs are not changing? We're just adding this one, right? And all the current ad hocs that we have now will go through November.
No, I don't think so. I think our current ad hocs stay with that cycle that we've been working with. So we essentially have a few months left on those. I imagine this one will roll over to the next year because I can't imagine that it would be complete in just a few months. Although it is possible. So yeah, these would be continuing through for the fiscal year, and then there would be new ones for the next fiscal year.
So I was going to ask questions about this in the next item when we're talking about ad hocs and general business. But as far as the extension of the terms, so with respect to how the work plans would work, is there expectation that the work, we will be creating a new work plan for approval in June again, or the existing?
Yeah,
that's the plan. And so I'm just trying to understand in the big picture of the annual cycles of the commission, what the expectation is. So the commission would be reformed. The extension date is through November 1st. if I understand correctly?
Yep.
So,
Yes.
so really our terms are extended through October, so it's a 7-month extension. So the commission, the same chair and vice chair will continue for the 7-month extension is?
I think we have to appoint a new chair or vice chair in January of every year is our
Correct.
code requirement.
I thought that that was getting changed.
It has not been changed to my knowledge.
I'm not aware of that either, so.
Okay.
So that would be in January. The timeline is even less than ideal than it was before. And so we had sort of preliminarily talked about maybe moving some things up with the retreat, maybe in March instead of April, especially with these new recruitments and things. But the timelines, as far as I know from the clerk's office, and I'm sure Steve and Sarah can confirm, for June is the same. This backlog from last year where it was approved essentially halfway through with a new work plan item, and now the extension have really kind of thrown a wrench into everything, but we're trying to follow the guidance that we've been given.
So when are we expected to wrap up our current work plans? It was going to be March, at the end of March, which is a little bit out of sync with the fiscal year and the work plans. Are we now, further to Commissioner Krim's question, will the current work plan continue working on this through April or May or something? Or what do we know what we're doing?
I think that's still to be determined.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still to be determined. We were thinking that we had flexibility to move the retreat up in order to not have that crunch time between the retreat and when the work plans are technically due to the clerk, because we only had that one meeting because we were working with the recruitment timeline that was now instated and then doing the retreat. And then we had one meeting to kind of flush it out and then submit it. But if we could back it up, but that would mean that there's less time to work on our current work plans, which essentially means that probably more of those items would roll over in some capacity if they're not done, is where I was anticipating we're probably headed.
So the current work plan was approved in October, right? Something like that. So does that mean that we would then have to go back to the council sometime?
I believe they're still due in June.
It's still coming. Oh,
This is
June.
coming
Okay.
June for the next work plan, is my understanding.
So that means we need to submit our next work plan by the end of May.
Yes.
Yeah, what we can do is, I think there's going to be ongoing discussions on this, on trying to figure all this out. And then what we can do is see if there's any new dates that have been established, and then come back and report on that on our next meeting.
Because every commission's in the same.
Yep, and I just want to go on the record as stating that as far as a commission reorganization, not aligning with the appointment date is very, in my opinion, is very problematic. The fact that we could elect a chair and or vice chair who would not be able to serve the entire year or
Right.
either because they're termed out or because they might not get reappointed. It's not a best practice.
Understood. Thank you.
And then the other thing we'll do is obviously talk with Commissioner Dang, just she has a chance to look at these and see if there's any other assignments that we can add her to. Load her up with
Yes, all ad hocs can have up to 3 members.
Yes.
So
You can
any
join them all.
ad hoc with only 2 people is fair game for you.
But for now, I wanted to focus on the middle school athletics ad hoc. So we have one volunteer. I'm happy to volunteer to be on that as well. And if we have a third one.
I would like
And
to.
Commissioner Krebs. Great. Anyone else? I'm happy to, no? Okay, cool, great. All right, so those are the 3.
You want to do it?
We need a motion? No? Consensus? Direction? Okay.
The chair can appoint the ad hoc, or the commission can
Actually,
vote on it.
this is an action item.
So it can be voted on as an action at the discretion of the chair.
Okay, do we have a motion to appoint Brown, Cribbs, and Dang to the middle school athletics ad hoc?
I so move.
I'll second.
It's a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kribbs,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Dang,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinhaus,
Yes.
Commissioner Way,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Yes.
and Chair Brown.
Yes,
That's a 7-0 vote.
thank you. Javad's last roll call vote. So sad. We'll make another one. Ad hoc committee and liaison updates. So this could be, we go back to the list of ad hocs and liaison. Oh. I'm sorry about that. I wish public comment on the middle school athletics ad hoc action item. Okay, so we go back to that item and open public comment.
I do see one hand raised. Tom, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for hearing public comments and thank you, commissioners, for volunteering for the ad hoc committee. Since you're forming this committee today to evaluate partnering with local nonprofits to manage middle school sports, I'd like to introduce myself and the work that my nonprofit has done to demonstrate the benefit of partnering with nonprofits to manage middle school sports. My name's Tom Haxton. I coach cross country and track and field at JLS Middle School. This summer, I founded a nonprofit organization, the Palo Alto Middle School Athletics Community Organization, to improve how middle school sports are managed in Palo Alto. Before this year, all middle school sports teams in Palo Alto were managed by the City of Palo Alto Middle School Athletics Program, which has been spending majority of its budget to compensate city staff who do not directly support the sports teams, leaving insufficient resources available for coaching and other needs. This fall, our nonprofit demonstrated a better approach by operating a cross-country team for JLS Middle School. We were able to improve equity by reducing registration fees from the city's rate of $335 to $200, and we were able to improve the student experience by investing almost all of our registration fees on the team, including recruiting a full staff of highly qualified coaches, leading to a successful season that garnered positive feedback from students and parents. Not only did we demonstrate the benefit of nonprofits operating middle school sports teams, but we also demonstrated the interest that students, parents, and the city council have in taking this approach. Despite the known risk that students might not be able to participate in the usual schedule of competitions and the inability to advertise our team through official channels, 59 students signed up and participated in our team, more than last year's team under the city program. We earned the support of city council, leading them to vote 7-0 on a work plan, including this amendment to direct the commission to evaluate outsourcing middle school athletics to local nonprofits. As ad hoc committee evaluates partnering with local nonprofits, I hope that you talk with us to learn about our experience prototyping such an approach and how we might partner with the city in the future. For example, by scaling up our organization to support additional teams. I also hope that you will learn from the experiences of the non-Palo Alto middle schools in our athletic team, in our athletic league, all or almost all of whom have athletic programs that are operated by local nonprofits. I'm looking forward to working with you to help improve middle school sports in Palo Alto. Thank you.
Chair, that concludes public comment.
Thank you. Close public comment, and we already have them.
Can someone just repeat the name of the nonprofit?
Palo
Do we
Alto
have any?
Middle School
Athletics.
Athletics. Yeah, that's right. It's like,
Shall I speak?
nope, I think Palo Alto
you
Middle School
clarify?
Athletics. We got it. Okay. All right. Now moving on to the ad hoc committee and liaison updates.
No, I'm happy to provide an update about the skate park. The skate park now has a website, which is www.paloaltoskatepark.org, which includes the plans, the preliminary design plans for the skate park and for the addition, an opportunity to contribute money for the public and also to see what kinds of things people can contribute to. They held a fundraiser on the 15th of December at the University Club. There were 95 guests there, a nice cross-section of skaters and grandparents and parents and everybody in the middle. Sam Kopinski, who is the leader of the skate park, is applying to local foundations and family foundations to increase his fundraising. Councilmember Greg Tanaka attended and spoke a short time. He was one of the original council members who was very supportive of the skate park when they came back to the council in 2021. And I know Sam appreciates the support of this commission and the city staff. Thank you very much, Sarah, for all your involvement in doing the backup work to figure out where they were. The community and the city council, and then also the Friends of the Palo Alto Parks. If you go to that particular website, they have an opportunity to donate. And Sarah also was able to arrange a meeting for Sam to meet with the JMZ Director John Aiken, who has had a lot of experience in fundraising and naming things within the Junior Museum. So I feel like Sam is really on his way. He's got a good group of people with him, and he's got people from the broader skate park community really rooting for him. So kudos to Sam.
Other updates? Commissioner White?
Yeah, for youth liaison, I attended their the library actually 10-year celebration. So the youth staff, Christopher and Adam, are all there, including. It's quite interesting to see. The collaborator from San Jose State brought a robot who can be used in the long term in book sourcing and engaging digital learning. So see a lot of kids over there, especially youth, very excited about that in the library, and hopefully the collaboration with San Jose State, that project will continue. And they are in their final this month, so they also had a couple events for the final exam cram at the youth center as well. So that's the final months for them. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Greenfield?
Thank you. A number of updates. For urban forestry, the draft tree and landscape technical manual has been released for public review. That happened at the beginning of this month. It's available for public review through February 3rd. My understanding is that this will be presented to the Parks Commission at our January meeting, if we make it on the agenda. Is that
I believe it got pushed to February.
pushed to February?
Per staff's request.
Okay.
It was originally set for January, you're right, but.
Okay, then well, I will look into see in what, or it would be helpful to understand. I know it's outside CSD, but maybe it would make sense for public review to be extended past the Parks Commission meeting date, or maybe it doesn't make sense. I'm not sure. At any rate, it is available for review on the city website, and a link could be provided. It's accessible from the urban forestry homepage. And we'll also be looking forward to a annual community forum for urban forestry, which is part of the charter for the Parks Commission. Valley Water held a Tidegate community meeting on November 20th. It was well attended by the Parks Commission, Commissioner Cribbs and Commissioner Kleinhaus and myself. And moderately well attended by the community as well. I don't know if and Steve and Sarah were there representing staff, so this room had a good presence. And I think it was a helpful meeting to update to the community. Steve, you want to, any comments further on that?
Yeah, I thought it was just, they gave a PowerPoint presentation basically on what it was for the seismic retrofitting over there. We had a lot of community members that came, basically people who were interested in the project. Again, a lot of commissioners, a lot of people with interest. The meeting was very well received. A lot of questions were answered for clarity and transparency on what the project was. And I think they had, a lot of positive feedback towards it. And they were able to respond to quite a few of the questions that were brought forth. And I know Commissioner Kleinhaus was there as well and gave a good speech basically on, owl habitat and birds and everything over there. But it was a good
request.
meeting. Yes, upon
Yeah,
request,
they asked me
yes.
to. I did not volunteer to do it. I have a question about that, though. Did you see any leaks during the storm there at high tide? They said there were leaks. I was just wondering if.
Typically what will happen is debris will get caught under some of the gates and then our ranger staff go out there daily and inspect for that. And then what we'll do is we'll contact Valley Water staff and then they'll come out and alleviate those issues.
Thank you. Other updates, the access policy ad hoc has met, and I think we're close to wrapping up our review work and ready to present to should be ready to present in January or February, whenever you want to put us on the agenda. The BCCP, Baylands Comprehensive Conservation Plan ad hoc is continuing to meet regularly with staff. And we're not quite ready to present to the commission, and would, I think, safe to say that in any additional time that the ad hoc was that we continue with work plan would be the benefit of that ad hoc. There's a lot to go through. The park dedication ad hoc has also met, and I think we would be ready to present a status update to the commission potentially in January, maybe better in February. I think that's it.
Vice Chair Freeman?
Sure. Yeah, the playing fields and racket courts ad hoc met with staff and are addressing issues that were brought to us by members of the public, such as the fact that the USTA tennis teams are renting many of our courts in Palo Alto and often have very few, if any, Palo Alto residents. With so many USTA teams reserving courts, Palo Alto residents have more difficulty finding court space to play tennis. Currently, there are no resident requirements for USTA rentals. Staff in the ad hoc will investigate policy changes that would allow Palo Alto residents who play to USTA to have space still, but ensure that non-resident USTA members do not monopolize the courts. So working with staff, we plan together public input and craft some policy suggestions that will come back to the entire commission for input and recommendations for recommended policy changes. And have a thing to add to that?
Yeah, the only thing to add is that the discussion will include how to check the residency for both the captains and the teams to ensure that Palo Alto residents are able to have access to the courts, but the Palo Alto residents are not penalized by not having enough people on their team so that they couldn't have a court. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 thing. And there continues to be a need for more space for tennis, extended hours, lights at night, and more space for pickleball, just as an ending comment.
So just on top of that, we sort of in the last 3 months, I guess, working with the couple of people who have actually reported this as an issue reported, presented us with some of the rosters from the USTA. And almost all those rosters had no Palo Alto residents on it. So it is an issue. Palo Alto tennis courts tend to be the more popular courts around, both probably for pickleball and for tennis. So I guess that's a good thing, but also I guess we need to make sure that we're giving our Palo Alto residents an opportunity to utilize the courts that they're paying their tax dollars for.
Is there a way that you can manage that, give priority to Palo Alto residents? Is there any way to manage it?
I think that's what they're looking at is that policy.
Yeah.
Is to-
Policy is the answer.
Yeah.
And in a similar way for field brokering for the soccer fields, the baseball fields, there's specific residency requirements that working different for adults and youth, but working with the community to find the right balance. And really what we're talking about is balance and finding the right balance for tennis courts between the USTA and the community.
And just preliminary investigation, it appears that there are other cities that have implemented procedures in place with software to be able to determine residents' requirements and renting space and so forth. So it is something that we definitely need to look into.
Interesting. Thank you. Just one more update on the master plan review, which is also the CIP ad hoc, is that when we met, we also discussed the master plan review and had an opportunity to talk with Steve and Sarah about the sort of the high priority items that we had identified in last year's ad hoc and looking at the master plan review and how to utilize those best practices or the high priority items into planning initiatives in the department. So I think we're going to take a look at those and see if that's something that staff can utilize moving forward. So just an offshoot of last year's work. Are there any other updates from either ad hocs or liaisons that did not get a chance to report yet?
I should just mention a little bit about the Recreation Wellness Center. The Cubberley project certainly is moving on, and Kristen O'Kane will be our point person for the commission and will also head up the Cubberley project. So she's announced that actually the council approved the use of funds to retain Concordia, who is the consultant who did the work on Cubberley before COVID, and they will be here on the 21st and the 22nd of January to talk to the community, talk to the staff, spend some time at Cubberley, spend some time with the Friends Group. And the Friends Group now has an LOI, which you may remember 2 years ago, Kristen suggested that we initiate one. And so we worked well with the city staff, and it was part of the report and then was taken out of the report, and the council approved it by itself. And so the Friends are now free to begin to talk about raising money to support the Recreation Wellness Center, which may be the first project in the Cubberley plan, which is very exciting. So Nellis, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you covered everything quite well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Very robust reports. Moving on to questions, comments, announcements, and future agenda items. So we do have some items tentatively scheduled for January. Transportation had requested to come back for an update on the bicycle and pedestrians transportation plan. And then this was from OES, a request about a communication install at Foothills Nature Preserve. Does that need to be in January, or is that something that could be bumped to February?
That's something that can be bumped.
Okay, because now we're looking at having the CIP come back just for more discussion in January. So the bicycle pedestrian, the CIP, and then potentially the access policy, if that can be ready in January as indicated. And then February, we had the urban forestry and canopy. And then we'll have that, oh, right, so that was the, we can have that communication install OES item.
What do we have? Park dedication in February, right?
And park dedication in February is what I was thinking, to add that as well.
What else did you have in January?
There was the bike ped master plan, the access policy, and CIP.
Great.
So in February, can we, it might be a little bit, can we maybe look at, I mean, possibility we might have the policy in place.
Oh, the courts policy?
The courts,
Okay,
yeah. So a bit tentative, I think.
okay.
And I believe the action item for vote for a new chair and vice chair.
Oh, yes,
right,
in January, yes. Any comments, questions, changes on any of that? Full agendas we're making up for not having a meeting last month. All right, seeing no questions, we will adjourn this meeting in honor of Javad. Thank you so much for your
Yes,
patience
thank
with
you.
us, and we so appreciate you, and we wish you the best of luck and success in whatever you want to do next.
You can still change your mind.
Yeah, you can still change your mind. Thank you, guys.